consider that they've taken the major hits, and to be able to continue to drive around town and recognize faces and get a wave and hello with people that have been here for 10, 20, 30 years. Thank you.
Virginia?
Virginia Ruggiero, Stockbridge Avenue. I come representing our neighbors, and I want to thank especially Mr. Bill Widmer, who helped us immensely helped us to get our speed sign back on Stockbridge Avenue. And now we have our mojo back. And I want to tell Bill and everybody on the council, this is the most important thing. I mean, I'm not saying they're the greatest things in sliced bread, but they're certainly better than no speed signs at all, which is what we had, nothing. And I want to give you fair warning that when you have next year's budget, I'm going to come and ask for one for the other side of the street, because they're very, very necessary. Thank you again, Bill.
Good job, too. Okay, are there any other public comments? One in the rear.
Yeah, hello, I'm Joseph Aiello. I'm the building inspector with the town. I would like to speak to the idea of outsourcing town services. The building department in general is based off of a enterprise fund, which, when run correctly, is wholly paid for by the permit fees and plan check fees that it takes in. And in regard directly to outsourcing services, I know when I came here 3 years ago, I replaced the last person who was outsourced in the building department. The town paid $15,000 a month for that person, and my total compensation package is about 2/3 of that, and that's a very high estimate. The amount of inspections done has been more than 60% more in my case, and what that works out to is the price paid per inspection for the last contract inspector was $50.51, whereas I've been paid $25.27. So it just seems to me it ought to be looked at a lot harder. And in regard to the services rendered to the town, I think that the town residents and the contractors could speak to the fact that we know them well enough and there's enough institutional recall within our department that it should be just looked at a little more carefully. Thank you very much.
Anybody else would like to speak? John?
John Buckeye, Selby Lane. I concur with the comments of Ms. Tevis on the level that, having run business myself, when it's necessary to cut costs, I think you have to look at where the major costs are coming from and not just single out smaller items and try to be uniform or fair. Everyone knows that the largest component of the town's budget is the police department. And I don't think anyone is saying that police officers are underpaid in Atherton. So if belt tightening is necessary, it should be accorded in a uniform way, and people shouldn't be singled out to one department. It should be across the board for people to think that it's fair. And I think fairness is equivalent to buy-in. So I'm also concerned if cutbacks are not done in a uniform way.
Anybody else?
My name is Eric McMillan. I'm a general contractor and been in business on the peninsula here for about 20 years. I've been working in Atherton for about the past 6 years, and I just wanted to let you guys know what a first-class building department you guys have down there. I've been working all up and down the peninsula, and Atherton is the best building department staff. They have the best building inspectors. And after years of service to this community, not only do the police have the best interest of the citizens and the welfare of this city in mind, but it's also the building department that makes sure that as a contractor we provide safe homes for the residents of Atherton to live in. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, seeing no one, go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Natalie Furry. I'm a general contractor and I built quite a few homes in the area and have interfaced with pretty much everybody at the building department. So I'm also concerned about it being, or part of it being outsourced, because I can tell you from my first-hand experience, they've always facilitated everything I needed, the whole process. They've made it easier not only for the general contractors, but they've made it easier for the homeowners. And I've also worked in other cities, and when it's not easy to work in a city, then everyone suffers. And I think if you outsource, you won't have people that are intimately familiar with the homeowners, the issues, just the process. And at the end, you might not end up having the savings that you think you might possibly.
Are there any other public comments? Well, seeing none, I'll close the public comment segment and we'll move on to the report out of the closed session. There's no report out of the closed session. We now have the city manager's report. City manager's report is included and therefore there's no additional comments. We now go to the community organization roundtable, which I don't believe is anything here tonight. So we then go to the consent calendar. On the consent calendar, these are items which we approve or pull out in one batch. And so the first thing I would do would be to ask if any one of these items can be pulled out the consent calendar by either council members or by any member of the public. So first of all, I would like to ask the council members if they have items that can be pulled out.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to discuss item 8, item on item 8, and then also identify a change in the title for item 9, because the objection for it. Thank you.
All right, Kathy. So items 8 and items 9 will be pulled out and we can discuss them. Just comments. Just comments. Well, you make the comments and then we can.
Sure. On number 8, which was the minutes for the last meeting. On item number 17, which was the change order for $305,000 for Fletcher Drive, the council will recall that we had somewhat of a debate or discussion with regards to the reason for those changes, or because another contractor was asked to come in and look at where the additional utilities were, and then during the construction phase, the utilities were not exactly where they were, and caused us to incur substantial changes. And we asked the city attorney to look at that contractor's contract and see if there was any way we could shift some of that liability to them or recoup at least the cost that we paid them. And so perhaps comment on that real quick.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, all I can say is I have not yet gotten to it. It's in the hopper, and we'll be getting back to you with the report before the next meeting.
So then we can assume that the contract change order hasn't been issued yet?
Is that correct, John?
do not know if the change order has been issued yet. I will check into that tomorrow morning.
Well, it wasn't supposed to be issued until this analysis was done.
Okay, so we're assuming that that contract change order has not been signed, and if that's not the case, I would, I'm sure the rest of the council would appreciate it if you get back to us hopefully by tomorrow.
Yes, I definitely do.
And then item 9, Joe.
The primary purpose was to fix the identification and the title. It was, it's claims and bills for April, not March. It's in the agenda.
Okay. Okay, that would be. Now, then, can I ask for a motion to approve the consent calendar? Or does any member of the public want to pull anything out of here?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
All in favor? Okay, so we now come to the regular agenda. And this is interviews and appointments to the finance and transportation. The public, excuse me. This is an introduction of an ordinance to adopt refuge and recycling collection. So the subcommittee that's looking at this, our council members Whitmer and Carlson, and so they're going to report on this tonight.
So we have a PowerPoint presentation. Get that up. While we're doing that, hello to everybody who's on YouTube. Thank you for posting that. Go to presentation mode. Next chart. Okay, so some of you may be you music connoisseurs that grew up with my age time. There was a band, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and they started their song in the early 60s with "Welcome Back, My Friends, to the Show That Never Ends." And sometimes talking about trash here, we're thinking that's exactly where we are. But however, we think we're going to be closing off and ending that item. So we go to the agenda. What we'd like to do today is give you a quick review on the earlier discussions that we've had. As you may recall, we had a discussion at the council meeting in December, then we had a rate hearing in this very pavilion here in February, then there was a subsequent meeting in March, then a mailing, and we're here today. So what I'd like to do is answer some of the questions that were raised in the first February rate hearing, then give you an update on some of the things that we've learned. We took some action items away, and Mr. Danielson and his team, as well as Mr. Carlson and myself, have spent considerable time working with the South Bay Waste Management Authority, as well as ecology executives who've been working very well with us in trying to get us answers to some of the questions that we have asked and you have asked in the previous meetings. Now, the purpose of this meeting is to look at the rates, address any protest letters that have been sent in, see if there is a majority of the residents protesting the rates that have been sent out, then discuss the rates, and pending not a majority of protests, adopt some rates and put them forward. But then lastly, I'd like to end up the discussion with giving you a briefing on some ongoing activities, because this is not the end of our discussions with regards to ecology and keeping our costs under control.